Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Pavani. I hope you are doing good. Today is 19th September and we have to go through many important articles. So let's start our discussion with this editorial that's called Banking on Mergers. Now, yesterday it was reported in newspapers that Government of India has decided to merge three different banks. You have Bank of Baroda, Dena Bank and Vijaya Bank. All these three banks will become or will be merged to form a new bank. This new bank will be third in terms of its size, third largest bank of our country, and in terms of value it will be 14.82 trillion, not dollars but rupees. So keep this figure in your mind as well. Now, this is not the first time we are exposed to this sort of news item or this sort of editorial. It's about this merger of various different banks. Now, a thing that we can take home with us as far as this merger is concerned is that it's clear, it's visible that what Government of India is doing is asking these healthy banks. Now, when I say healthy bank, I mean to say that Bank of Baroda is the most, you can say, good performing bank in our country. One of the, right? I'm not saying it's the best, but of course, it's on top 5 banks. And Dena Bank is not so good bank. It's a poor performer, to be honest. And for a very long period of time now, Dena Bank is under this direct, you can say, this RBI is monitoring Dena Bank, and this whole framework is called prompt corrective action. And this PCA is implemented on a particular bank if a particular bank is not performing very well, to sort out its NPA issues and other structural issues and things like that. To sort it out, RBI will take over your operations. RBI will dictate what are the things that you need to do, do's and don'ts and terms and conditions and everything. So one of the reasons why it was under this PCA is because it's a poor performing bank. This also means, in this editorial you will get a couple of points that will help you understand this whole matter, but I have added a few more items here that will take you a little bit in depth about this merger and positive and negative things associated with this sort of mergers. Now, negative thing, first one is that it's basically what we are doing is we are asking a healthy bank. Now, it's very easy to understand that if your bank is healthy, that means you have a culture to perform. You are avoiding all those negative things, you are taking risks and everything, and basically you can say that the whole system is working very well. So this is the reason why you are in this healthy state. Now, by merging these banks, what we are doing is we are asking healthy banks to take or share this load of weak banks too. So this is going to be, it can go rough, it can go wrong as well if we don't look after this new bank. And we have to make sure that this new bank that we are going to create, it should be a strong bank. It should not be a weak bank that we are producing. So that's a very important thing. The other thing is that it also looks like a forced merger. In terms of business, it does not make that much sense for Bank of Baroda to merge with a weak bank like Dena Bank or Vijaya Bank. Vijaya Bank, reasonably speaking, is alright, but Dena is a very poor performer bank. No personal, you can say, grudges against this Dena Bank. This is what reality is. Now, the thing is, so as I told you that this forced merger, it makes little sense, business sense particularly. Now, positive point is that when we will have these three banks, when we'll convert it into one or merge it into one, we are going to have the third largest bank, and this will help us with this Basel III norms as well. Now, in this Basel III norms, you have it's basically an international standard that you need to have enough capital and liquidity. Then you need to have this supervisory, body that is looking after your operations and whether all the things that you are doing is right or wrong and things like that. And then you have this enhanced risk disclosure and market discipline. So all these three things, right, which are, of course, important if we want to see our bank under this Basel III international norms. So this capital thing, when you'll add all these three banks, so to a greater extent, we don't have to pump money into Dena Bank and Vijaya Bank separately. We have whatever we have extra money with Bank of Baroda, say for example, will help us to easily get this bank in this chart of Basel III norms. And since 2017, you know this thing that government has kept aside nearly 99,000 crore rupees, 99,000 crore rupees for recapitalization of our public sector banks. Now, you know why the recapitalization is done, because of NPA, non-performing assets. If a bank will not have capital to give out as loan, and if the money is not coming back, or the loan is not coming back, if the loans are turning out to be NPAs, non-performing assets, then of course to survive banks will require some money. So this is called bailout. Government is, you know, injecting capital so that the necks can stay out of water. I hope this is making sense here. Now, one more thing, that it's important that this newborn baby or newborn bank is a strong bank. At the same time, we have to make sure that this whole merger is managed logically or prudentially, because you know, merger is not an easy thing. What will happen is that you will have staff or work culture from 3 different banks. It's not just about staff, you know, it's not just about taking them on one payroll and giving a new brand name. It may sound easy, but it's not. You will have clashes between 3 different way of working styles and everything, like who will take over, which bank's culture is the best one, and all these things, discussions will take place. And there are 4 things that we need to keep in mind. Economy's credit needs. Are we fulfilling this thing? Second thing is capital requirements. Do we have enough capital with this new bank? Business sense. Is it logical or not? Or in terms of minority shareholders' interest, is it going to be beneficial for these shareholders who have invested money in this bank? Now, one more bottom line and one more important point here is that the poor performance of our public sector banks, right, is a sort of, it is outcome of this bad governance in public sector banks. So we can do as many mergers as we like, we can mix and match various different banks, but if we are not going to sort out this bad governance issue, then we are going to face the same situation in future as well. So this is the thing that we need to keep in mind. And one more thing that I would like to add here is that Finance Minister has assured people working in these 3 different banks that nothing will be done that will adversely affect their job conditions. So this is a thing. But then as well, you find whenever this sort of decisions are taken, you find a little bit of negative sentiments going out in the market, or with the banks or the people who are working in this bank. So that's everything with this bank issue. I hope things are clear to you now. So before moving ahead, I would like to inform all of you that, as you can see on your screen, we get various different pen drive and tablet courses, and at present up to 50% discount is available on our pen drive and tablet courses. This is going to last till 23rd September, so make the most out of it. Find out everything about it from our portal, that is StudyIQ.com. Of course, you can download the PDF of today's lecture from my FB page and Twitter handle. And please, may I request you guys to share this lecture video as well as PDF with other students as well. Thank you very much for to all of you who are doing this thing on regular basis. There are a few students out there, they do it on regular basis, and I know this thing, so thank you very much for your support and for your love. With this, dear friends, second item that we have is Celestial Misfit. Now, it is about this dwarf planet. Earlier on, it was part of our solar system, or it was considered as a part of our solar system. It is Pluto, of course. And if you go through NCERTs, I still remember a couple of years ago when I was going through this NCERT some 3-4 years ago, then I came across this information. At that point of time, it was a thing that was new for me, because I'm talking about 5-6 years ago, because of course we have gone through when we were in school, you know, at that point of time this decision was not taken, but later on when you are in college and university, you don't come across this sort of things, isn't it, when you are not following current affairs and other things. Anyways, you find this 2006 thing in your NCERT, that International Astronomical Union, IAU, decided back in 2006 that this Pluto is not capable, or it's not eligible to be referred as a planet of our solar system. Now on your screen we have our solar system. Of course, you have Sun as the center of the solar system, and then you have all these 8 planets. Now, dear friends, basic things regarding what is a star, what is a planet, and all these things are available in your basic books like NCERT. So if you are new to this game of competitive exam, then I will reckon you guys to go through it, right? Take your time, but understand everything regarding it. It's not going to take that many hours for you, just 3-4 hours, and this thing will be there, because we have already studied all these things, when we were in school. So it's very basic. And one more thing that I would like you guys to pay or draw your attention at is this thing, that you need to know exactly which planet is closer to Sun, and this whole order. So you have Mercury, then Venus, then of course our dear Earth, then we have Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And Pluto was part of it, but now it's not. And this whole editorial is about these 3 conditions and things associated with Pluto. There is an argument, or you can say discussion, going on whether we should add Pluto again as a part of this solar system, whether we should declare or keep it as it is, like a dwarf planet, whether we should declare it as a binary system, a binary solar system. All these things may sound a little bit gibberish to you guys, but don't worry, I'm going to explain everything to you in a minute. So there are 3 conditions, right, that will decide whether a particular celestial object is a planet or not. The first one is that it must orbit the Sun. So that's what all these planets are doing. That's what Pluto is doing as well. The second one is it should be massive enough to acquire an approximately spherical space. So this is the second condition that reasonably speaking Pluto is qualifying for the point number 2 as well. And now the third one is that it has to clear its orbit, that is, be the object that exerts the maximum gravitational pull within its orbit. Now this is a point. The point number 3 is the main reason why Pluto is kicked out of this solar system, or this so-called, when I say kicked out, not literally, I mean to say on our books, of course. So the third point, what means how planets react with each other. A planet will either, when something comes closer to a planet, either it will collide with it or it will be ejected out of it because of various forces, right? So Pluto is a sort of object, a celestial object that is affected by Neptune's gravity too. Now I'll show you how it works. So here you can see this is orbit that we are talking about. And if we go through the details of Pluto, then we find that all these other planets are revolving around the Sun. Of course, Pluto is revolving, but the way Pluto is its whole orbit path is not oval shaped. So other planets, their orbit path is not exactly circular, but it is more like an oval, right? I'm not good with this sort of sketches, but I hope things are making sense here. So this is Sun here, and this is how other planets are rolling around or revolving around the Sun. But Pluto is a bit different, right? It is going this way. So this is called stretched out oblong. That's what a particular terminology for this orbit of Pluto is. The other thing is Pluto is tilted as well compared to other planets. Other planets' orbit is at a level with the Sun, but Pluto's orbit is tilted. The other thing is, as I told you, that Pluto is affected by Neptune's gravity. At the same time, it shares its orbit with frozen objects in the Kuiper belt too. Now what this Kuiper belt is all about, here we go, it's on your screen. This is Kuiper belt here. So as you can see here, this pink line represents Pluto's orbit here and here, as you can see here. And this Kuiper belt is basically a stretch or a belt that is 7.5 billion, that is here or here, and 9.3 billion. So that's how far it is. So this internal boundary is 7.5 and the external one is 9.3, of course, from from Sun. So you have this frozen belt here, and this Pluto is loitering here as well. So these are the two factors, right, based on which it is decided that it is not clearing its orbit. Its orbit is not clear. So I hope this thing is clear to you as well. Now we have a journal called Icarus, and this Icarus journal has this stakeholders are pointing out that back in 1802 it was William Herschel who came out with this logic of Pluto and everything, and this whole argument of 2006 was based on this William Herschel's 1802 findings. So apart from this Herschel's work, this 2006 decision was not based on any other thing. So there are a few scientists who are saying that it should be included back in this solar system catalog. There are a few scientists who are saying that this Pluto, it is having its moon called Charon. Now this Charon is basically bigger in size. It's not that small. You know how Earth and Moon, the relationship between our Earth and our Moon is a bit different, or their size, relatively Moon is very small compared to Sun, beg your pardon, compared to Earth. But this Pluto's moon is bit big in size. So there are a few scientists who are saying that we should declare it as Charon-Pluto system. There are scientists that are saying that declare it as binary planet system. So all these things are going to make things a bit more complicated. That's what this whole article is trying to tell us. But the reason why I have explained all these things is that easily you can find it, because now it is part of current affairs and it is part of your basic understanding about space and geography and other things. So it's very important for all of us to understand all these things, just in case if you find a question in your prelims examination. Now we're moving on to another item, important item. It is about 10 years on in uncharted waters. It's about this financial crisis that started back in 2007. And in this article, we find there are a few villains like global macroeconomic imbalances and loose monetary policy in the US. Loose monetary policy basically means money is injected in the market. How it is done? By decreasing interest rate. I hope these things are making sense, because we have talked about this impact of a high interest rate and low interest rate many a times. If you are new to this discussion, then I will recommend you guys to check out some of our lectures, in which we have discussed these items. And if you have any doubt regarding it, if you want any dates on which particular date we have talked about it, then just throw your question in the comment section, and there are so many good students out there. They will help you and provide you the date as well. So this is how it works, right? So dear students, other regular students, I will recommend you guys, and I request you guys that if you find any sort of question, this sort of question, that if a new student is trying to, if a newcomer, if he or she is struggling with some things, like if they are not aware about past discussions. When I said discussions, I mean to say that on which date we had this discussion on monetary policy and other things. So please help them, right, to do share dates with them, so that they can start their preparation from a very solid base. So loose monetary policy, interest rate were kept lower, so more money was flowing in the market. Then you have this housing bubble, so more houses were created and more loans were taken on houses. Now you don't need that many houses. Again, you need this demand and supply thing. There should be a clear balance. So if you keep on constructing houses and flats and other things, but if there are no buyers, then what will happen eventually? If you have taken infrastructure or this construction loan from banks, then everyone is going to fall down. Bloated financial sector, flawed belief in efficient markets, greedy bankers, performance, or your performance, how many loans you are dispersing, and all these things were playing a very important role in the income of these bankers. So they were taking risks and giving out, because at the end of the day, end of the year, they were looking for big paychecks and things like that. So these were a few big villains that led to this crisis, financial crisis. Now you have this thing called securitized assets. Now, using very layman's language, let me tell you what it is all about. Say for example, a person has this is a bank here. It is given loan to you. You have taken a loan for your house. Now you are providing money, interest and other things on monthly basis, or on a particular period you are giving money to this bank. And now this bank is supported by many investors too, right? Many people have bought shares and other things, and they have kept their deposits and other things in the bank. So this is how bank is working. So what bank is doing now is, in this securitized assets, is that it is investing this money, the money that is coming from this party, it is investing in some other places. So all these things, when the flow of money stopped coming from this source, it was affecting these investors as well as negatively, and everything was going down. I hope this is making sense here. So if money is not coming, if you are not getting your money back, your loan back, NPAs are generating because of various different reasons then. And if you have invested that money that you should invest somewhere else, you have invested again, given loans on some other things and some houses and all these things. So because of these things, right, when the economy was going down, or this financial crisis happened because of this thing as well. So I hope this thing is clear to you. And when you find, if you have invested, if you have bought a share of a bank or something, if you have invested, if you have kept money in a bank, and if you think that the performance of that bank is going down, then of course the first thing that you will do is you will take your money back. So banks were in tight position. Money was not coming from this side, and the money was going out from this side. Over here, nothing was coming out. In fact, it was falling down. So this led to this crisis. I hope this is making sense. It is also known as revolving doors. Revolving doors basically means, this door where multiple people can come and go in, out. They can go in a building or come out from a building. And when you have this revolving door, when many times we are, in a situation where everyone is just revolving around. So something similar took place when USA's markets were going down, and all this money that was borrowed by European businesses and banks and everything, they started falling down as well, because USA people, they were taking away money from Europe, and other banks who followed similar pattern, they went down. And so whole this USA, other developed countries like in Europe, UK, France, Germany and other countries, and few economies of Asia as well, they went through this crisis. And this is one thing that we need to understand here, is that financial institutions are a big source of political funding. So if you read between the lines, that means that financial institutions, they play a very important role in politics. What are the things, the things that are going to be important issues in future, and particularly if it is related with the financial institutions or finance world, then in future it can, result into, and that's what has happened. Eurozone crisis, Brexit and Trump phenomena, and all these things are basically the roots. You can find them in this financial crisis. Now, we were talking about this liquidity or money being injected by USA. So what was happening at that point of time, for a very long period of time, and even today, this all countries, they have this reserve of dollar to stabilize their local currency. So we were talking about just a couple of days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, we were talking about this fall and rise of rupee and how it works and things like that. So this USA, this Federal Reserve, that is Central Bank of USA, it used to keep this loan rate it was reasonable or cheap. So because of this thing, more money was pumped into the market. When you borrow money and when it looks like, okay, many people have borrowed it, or many institutions around the world have borrowed money from us, then they will raise interest rate. So this way USA, is controlling, in a sense, you can say, this whole financial world. Now, India was unaffected by this thing because of various different steps that were taken by us, and this was a strategy that we used to follow for a very long period of time, like short-term foreign borrowings. For a short term, if you need money from a foreign country or foreign entity, then it was a bit stringent. It was not that easy, so there were limits on this thing. The other thing is, we never allowed, these foreign banks to spread here in our country. So this worked out as a boon for us, because USA and other international agencies, they were insisting us that we need to, allow these foreign banks to operate in India and things like that. So basically, India escaped this fate, and we were doing very well at that point of time as well. And at the end of the day, the bottom line of this article is that economists are free to draw their lessons from financial crisis, but the world is ultimately shaped by political and business interests, not by economists. So I hope this financial, it took 10 years ago, this whole thing, but the reason why we have analyzed is that just in case, if you don't know exactly what went wrong with it, you have some sort of understanding on this thing in terms of general studies. You don't have to do PhD on economics to crack civil services examination or other competitive examinations. If you are preparing for banks and other things, then that's altogether a different thing. You need to have some in-depth knowledge about it. But for competitive exams like civil services, state level or UPSC level, a basic good understanding is more than enough. Now again, if your main subject is economics, mains optional subject is economics, then of course you have to have a very good understanding, master's level understanding. Right. Moving on to another item, this is about pointlessness of hashtags. A very easy to understand article, from past many years. What we are seeing is that these hashtags, this few topics, they will blow out of proportion. It will become a trending thing on social networking site. But personally, what I have observed, and something that we find in this article, that most of the time, majority of people who are discussing this hashtag thing, it will be started by few people who know everything or many things about a particular topic, but later on a big chunk of people, they have no clue at all what's going on. They don't have this in-depth knowledge about it. They know the main issue, and if you ask them to analyze this thing, then they will fail, to be honest. Most of them will fail. But then as well, we find that people will retweet and they talk about it and they share their opinion and other things on it. And this is pointless. It's not going to do anything at all, right? It will not change anything. If you don't have, there are a few topics. I'm not saying that every hashtag and every trending topic is useless or pointless. No. But most of them, right? Again, generally speaking, most of them are not creating, they are not, doing anything at all in our society. We have seen many this sort of hashtags and trending topics. Now, this whole Maoist movement, this whole topic started because of this, the reason why it is printed, this pointlessness of hashtags. This article is because of this urban Naxal and Me Too urban Naxal hashtags that are trending at present or were trending in recent past. And it is about this Maoist. So, if you are supporting someone, if you are, supporting in the sense, if you are providing weapons and other things, then of course you are a dangerous person. But if you feel the pain, if you have this empathy for all those downtrodden people or sections of our society, then it's not that you are a Maoist. So one thing that we need to clear. The second thing is, Maoist movement in India is a product of India's imbalanced development policies. But now if they are thinking that the arms or violence is the only way, then they are wrong as well. Maoists are wrong. And using too much of violence or killing every one of them is again something that will not be right from government point of view, and government won't be right if government is engaging in this sort of things. So that's basically everything. Now moving on to another item. This is about an interview of chairman of Apollo Hospital, Pratap C. Reddy. He talks about that 35 years ago, hospitals, most of them were, run by this charitable organizations, or most of them were government sector hospitals. But now what we find is that in last 30 years, we have not kept up to date, particularly this government hospitals, in terms of infrastructure upgradation and training and other things. So this is the reason why we are lagging behind as far as public health sector is, public health or public or government hospitals are concerned. Banks, hospitals were not allowed to take loans from banks, but later on Rajiv Gandhi government allowed this thing. Apollo Hospital was the first one to get this JCI, that is Joint Commission International Certification and National Accreditation Board for Hospitals and Healthcare Providers. Now we have 32 JCIs and 480 NABH hospitals in our country. Now he takes us through these figures, right? Healthcare sector was some 160 billion, the whole sector, medicines and people and everything. $160 billion in 2017. It's about our country. It's going to touch 372 by 2023. Just hospital sector was 62 billion in 2017. Just hospitals, if we talk about. In 2023, it's going to be double or more than double, $133 billion. Private sector hospitals are going to be 74% of this total market. So this is a big red flag. We have got a new Ayushman Bharat scheme just around the corner. It's going to be rolled out, but still there are many people out there, middle class people as well, they cannot afford these surgeries, these big surgeries that you have to go through in private hospitals because they are expensive, of course. Now, for India, the big problem is non-communicable diseases. So all of us, we need to adopt a healthy lifestyle. If you're not exercising and things like that, then you need to do it now, right? To start it. It's a very good phase that you are in at present. You are young. Most of you are not in a job. Even if you are in a job, like say, for example, I'm doing a job, isn't it? Then as well, I find time to do a little bit of exercise. So do it. It will help you with your performance as well, your studies as well. A healthy mind lives in a healthy body, so that is very right. And our World Economic Forum says that out of this $30 trillion that will be spent by the whole world by 2030, 4.8 or roughly speaking $5 trillion expense will be done by India. So it's going to be, we are going to be 1/6, you can say 1/6 of share of expenses is going to take place from India. So it's a big thing that we need to prepare ourselves for. And at present we are spending some 1.5% of our GDP after health. It should be at least 3% or ideally speaking 5% of our GDP. We have medical tourism as well. 3.5 lakh people arrive here in our country from 150 different countries for medical care. So that's a big business for us, a big service sector for us, and we need to improve our bed and patients ratio. Out of 1,000 people, we have 1.1 beds available. A global average is 2.7. WHO recommends 3.5. That's everything in articles and editorials. Now let's move on to news item. We are, the clock is ticking, so I'm going to be as quick as possible here. USA and China, they are in this tug of war or tit for tat tariff game, and it's going to hurt the whole world because we are talking about two largest economies of the world. They are against each other. So timeline is given here. Help yourself with it as you download this PDF file, go through it, and of course you need to go through the whole article as well. I have gone through it, but I'm just giving you gist of what is important here. Class 10 girl gang raped at boarding school. Jalandhar Bishop seeks bail from Kerala High Court, and India targets a slight increase in 2018-19 food grain production. Again, the chart is given here. Then ISRO is going to rope in, it is going to spread out, and it is going to in 6 different centers, it is going to create this incubation centers so that innovation and technology can be created, and this can be used for our space sector. Modi gifts his constituency, that is Banaras or Varanasi, projects worth 550 crore. UAE clears Christian Michel. Michel is a person who was a middleman in this Augusta Westland VVIP chopper deal case. And every 5 seconds we lose one child under 15 years of age. This is reported by United Nations, and here are figures for you guys. You can see two leaders, South Korean leader and North Korean leader, meeting each other. And again, you have this whole timeline. The tale so far is given here, so help yourself with it. It's going to be easy for you guys. Financial news. Finance Minister is going to review performance of banks and FIs. These are your vocabularies. Yesterday's map-based question is this one. Answer is Mexico. This one is a map of one of our state. So I'm not giving any hint, right? It is an Indian state. So now you have to go through it and recognize it. So for that, you have to go through the whole political map of our country, which is not going to be that difficult. These are your answers. These are your 2 MCQs and 1 descriptive question. That's everything. As I told you, please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. Thank you very much for your support, for your love. I do go through your positive comments, and it motivates me, to be honest. It encourages me to give my best, the best I can. Whatever I know, I try to share it with you guys so that you can get that dream job or dream career that you are looking for or working hard for. So God bless you all. Enjoy your day. Jai Hind.